Hey everybody, it's Nancy Norbeck with this week's Creative Pep Talk. And this week, I want to talk to you a little bit about a reel that I saw on Instagram not too long ago. And I couldn't tell you who this guy was, but he was a guy who was talking about creativity, and he was saying that, I don't even remember what his example was, it's not important, but he was talking about resistance and how this was an example of resistance, and that resistance is something you have to push through. And that was kind of where everything in my head said, oh my God, no. And I stopped watching because that's just not great advice. And the thing is that I'm not surprised that this person was giving that advice, because that's the advice that our culture gives us all the time. If something gets in the way of something you're supposed to do or that you want to do, then obviously you just need to push your way through it and, force your will on whatever it is that you're doing. And then everything will be fine and wonderful in the end. Now, I don't know how often you have attempted the force your will upon the thing that you're trying to make happen approach, but if you've tried it very often, you've probably found that for a start, it's exhausting. And for another thing, it often doesn't work all that well. And the metaphor that came to mind for me after I saw this video was, if you were driving down the road in your car, and suddenly in the middle of the road, you found yourself confronted with a mountain, what would you do? Would you try to drive through the mountain? I'm going to go ahead and bet that probably you would not try to drive through the mountain. If you were on foot or you got out of your car, probably you would not try to walk or push your way through the mountain. You might look for a road that goes around the mountain. You might look for a road that goes over the mountain. You might look for a helicopter or a hot air balloon or something else that would take you over the mountain. But probably, unless you found yourself in a very unusual situation where there was some kind of major excavating equipment with a large fuel supply nearby, I don't think you would try to push your way through the mountain. Now, we could go crazy with this metaphor and extrapolate into how tunnels are built and things like that, but that's not really relevant to the example. In most situations, if you are on your own and you are confronted with a mountain, you're not going to push through it because it's just not practical. You don't have the tools, you don't have the energy, and there are better ways to deal with the mountain. As you may have figured out by now, in this metaphor, the mountain is the resistance. There are way better ways to deal with your resistance than trying to push through it. And if you don't believe me, there are other examples. Another one that comes to mind for me is from classical Greek mythology, the example of Cerberus, the five-headed dog. What do you do in Greek mythology when you come across the threshold that is guarded by Cerberus, the five-headed dog? You do not confront and try to kill Cerberus, the five-headed dog. You throw Cerberus, the five-headed dog, a nice juicy piece of meat to keep him distracted while you get around the dog. It's the same thing. In either example, you get around the resistance. You do not risk killing yourself, wearing yourself out by trying to destroy the resistance. Why? Because it doesn't work. The mountain is bigger than you. The five-headed dog, it's got 5 heads. Come on. There are ways around these things. And if you've been paying attention and listening to these pep talks for any length of time, you may have noticed that there is a pattern in a lot of what I've been saying. And that pattern is that these are tools that I'm giving you that will help you to get around your resistance. That is what small steps are. If you're not familiar with small steps, there's a whole pep talk episode about them that I invite you to go and check out, because small steps are one of the best ways to get around your resistance without your resistance even noticing. They are that juicy hunk of meat that you have thrown to the five-headed dog. The five-headed dog stops paying attention as you sneak around it using small steps. Small questions are another one. Lowering your expectations is another. There are a skazillion of them in this collection of pep talks. The key, though, is to remember that there are ways around the mountain. There are ways over the mountain. There are ways to deal with the mountain that do not involve you standing there for 1,000,000 years trying to claw away at the mountain in front of you. Ways that are faster, that are easier, that are more fun, that are more scenic, that are much more interesting, that may actually contribute to your creativity and your energy rather than wearing you out. So when you hear someone say that you need to push through your resistance, or that frankly you need to push through anything, I really hope that you'll stop and ask yourself if there's not a better way, if there isn't a way around it, if there isn't a way over it, if there isn't a way to kind of lull it into not paying attention while you go and do the thing that you really want to do. Because, our culture may think that it is valiant and strong and all of these wonderful things to go diving headfirst against that mountain. But it's not really practical, and it's not really good for you, and it's probably not going to get you where you want to go. Go around it. Go over it. Lull it into not paying any attention so that you can do the things you want to do. Just don't attack it. There are better ways. Go explore them. If you're not sure how to implement them, give me a call. That is why I'm here. But either way, there are other ways. And I hope that you will explore those options the next time that you feel tempted to push through the resistance. And with that, I'll see you next time.